Hello and welcome to another special projects build in GT7, and for those who follow the series you know the drill. We create replicas or custom creations based on cars that are in the game to drive cars that in effect aren't in the game. Now this one probably will become real at some point, a NISMO version of the latest Fairlady Z, the 400Z as it's also called. Now what I like to do with these builds is I focus on the tuning side more often than not, and then I like to kind of Secret Santa gift a player in the community who's made a good design that basically accomplishes what I'm going for, which doesn't have the recognition that it deserves. So on this occasion, I'll screen grab the player name, because I have no idea how to say that, and also the search tags that you can use to find it, because I think this is a great livery. It's only got 5 likes at the time of releasing this video, so go over there and love bomb them with loads more, and of course, it's a great visual design, in my opinion. It looks great on the car. It's exactly what I was going for. So then for my side of things, I, of course, am focusing more on the tuning for this video. So there are a couple of things which I purchased which you don't necessarily need to, such as, for example, I've got the sports silencer. I purchased the sports and the semi-racing to see, different power levels, different visual styles, so you don't actually need to buy that. You do want the sports computer, though, and the sports air filter. I would recommend the sports pads, because I wanted this car to feel believable. I didn't want it to be crazy just with racing parts everywhere. The PP level would have been too high. The performance would have been unrealistic. I wanted it to feel faster and more special, but also believable. That's the point. It's a NISMO version of an already fast car. I'm really happy with how it's turned out. So, of course, try what I've done, and if you want to adjust it accordingly, you can. Nice round numbers are the name of the game. 1,500 kilos, so about 40 kilos less. Again, realistic, it's not going to be super lightweight. And 450 horsepower on the dot, with a really good amount of power as well. Now, as I said, we've gone for the sports pads. Level 1 weight reduction, which actually makes it a lot less than 1,500 kilos, so I've used ballast to bring it up to that more realistic level. I've left the sports hards on it, because again, you want it to feel realistic. And you don't want to just make it too easy, tyres alone will make a car feel faster immediately. Sports clutch and flywheel. The power restrictor I do have fitted, but you don't necessarily need to use that. Likewise with the ballast, I've fitted that, but you will need that if you want to copy what I've done. As far as the semi-racing stuff, that is where you do want to fit the exhaust, the semi-racing silencer, like I said. I have gone for the fully customised diff, because it just gives you more control, basically. Although I haven't done too much with it, but it does give you the option to. As far as the racing section, I have gone for racing suspension, purely because it gives you so much more control over all the individual stuff. And I also feel like a NISMO probably would lean into that, having that kind of tunability. As you can see though, speaking of tunability, I actually have not upgraded the transmission. It already suits the car pretty well, I think, and the amount of power that we've increased it by doesn't really need a change of gearbox. It still feels pretty good. And then I actually have fitted the carbon brakes. The reason why I've gone for the carbon brakes is I thought that felt more appropriate to this kind of exotic aftermarket tuning build. Carbon ceramics are a lot more commonplace than they used to be, even say 10, 15 years ago. Back when, the SLR McLaren really stood out for having stuff like that. These days you'll have stuff like BMW M4s and stuff with carbon ceramics. It's nowhere near as much of a big deal. So I chose to fit those for more of an authenticity factor. Then to go back into the actual fine-tuning within the garage. As that loads up, we can click on settings, and then this is how I've actually set it up. Now, as you can see, it's a bit of an odd point level, 586, just under 587, so you could tune it up a little bit more if you wanted to use it for racing, but I would recommend if you do want to do that, maybe have 2 different versions, 2 different setting sheets. So create this one, drive it just for fun, which is the main purpose of the tune, then maybe duplicate the sheet if you want to make one that's even more competitive, with like better tyres or maybe less weight, whatever the case may be. But then as far as the actual settings, I've gone for 110mm on the front, 120 on the back. That probably seems a little bit strange, but if I back out, you can see there, I think that looks like a pretty good height. I didn't want the car to be slammed, but I did want it to be lower than stock. So stock, it's like 125 front and rear. So in conjunction with the extra bodywork, I think it sits pretty nicely. Anti-roll we've increased to 5. The compression on the dampers we've increased to 36. I've lowered the expansion just a fraction to 44. The frequency is 2.25 on the front and the rear. 1 degree of camber, that is of course negative camber. As far as the toe, just a touch. We've towed out the front by 0.5 and we've towed in the rear by 0.5, and that basically gives the car more stability. You can still step the tail out though, so you haven't lost that ability. As far as the diff, not much of a change. I believe the braking sensitivity comes on 30, I think, when you fit that, so I may have changed that to 30, but just match those numbers up with yours. The diff will make a massive difference though to this car. I've set it up in a way that almost feels like a baby Nissan GT-R, and that's what I was going for, so very composed, very fast, but then if you give it a little blip of the throttle, you can step the tail out. That's the vibe I was going for. Then as far as the power restrictor and the ECU, they're on 100%, so I love the fact that it's sitting just on 450 horses. As far as the ballast though, 127 kilos is what I've added, and I've put that all the way to the rear, which does two things. Gets us to that nice round, believable number of 1500, as I said, about 40 or so lower than stock, and also by putting it all the way to the back, gets us a little bit closer to that, well, supposedly perfect 50-50. I don't personally believe that 50-50 is the best ratio for all cars, but for many cars it certainly does improve it. And as far as the downforce, we've got 100 on the front and the rear, which technically means it favours the front end, which again is exactly what I wanted. It means you can dive into corners more, but still step the tail out. Then as far as the rest of the stuff, it's basically just all fitted or not fitted, as the case may be, clutch, etc., as you can see. So that's it for the tune. Now, of course, we're going to take it out on the track to show you what it can do in practice. Now, in terms of lap times and stuff, I'm sure that, a better driver, a more skilled driver could take the car even quicker around the track than I have. To be honest, I wasn't putting a huge amount of effort into making this the fastest possible demo lap. I just wanted to get a feel for what the car was like, see how fun it was, and it is very fun. Again, I didn't want the car to feel too good, which sounds like a cop-out, but honestly, I wanted the car to seem believable, because the thought that you need to have about these kind of builds is I'm not trying to make the car feel like it's a totally beginner-friendly, completely, finished tune that would have already come from a NISMO and then been made even better. I want this to feel like what a NISMO would be like when you've just bought it in the game and have done nothing to it. And that's kind of a hard balance to strike sometimes. So give it a try, tell me what you think. If you find it fun, great. If you think there's something which you personally prefer, by all means slap it down in the comments. Other people could try out that as well. And of course, if you do decide to build this, I would recommend giving that player's design some love, because it was my favourite NISMO design that I could see from the community, and certainly suits the car. So overall, that's it for this special project. Of course, check out the other ones which I've done on the channel. Recently I did a GT1 setup for the Aston Martin 177, which I'm pretty proud of as well, and of course stick around for more. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.